Hi, I'm Dr. Robertson. I want to welcome you to English 2010. I just wanted to make a quick video introducing you to the course and to Canvas. Some of the stuff that I say on this video will be for face-to-face courses. Some of it will be for online courses, and some of it will be for both. I'll let you know which is which. The syllabus is pretty good at distinguishing between which is which as well. So when you get on your homepage, this more or less is what yours should look like. You should start out by seeing your course orientation, your course materials. These are called modules. So what we've done is we've organized the entire course into modules. Your first module is just course orientation. I encourage you to go in, take a look at each of these. There's a little information about me. You have access to the syllabus here. The next is course materials. These are all of the major texts that we are going to be using throughout the semester. The big one for all of you is going to be Everyone's an Author. This is our textbook. And then we have some other sources here. My YouTube channel, a couple of texts. All of these are going to be useful, and so I've given you access to these. Then we have major assignment descriptions. So I encourage you to look over all of the major assignment descriptions, get a feel for what the major assignments are going to be. And then the rest of the course, every week of the course, is organized according to these modules. So everything you need to do each week of this course, you will find on this homepage in the pertinent module. So lesson number 1 is week number 1. Lesson number 2 is week number 2. The other thing to pay attention to on your homepage is over here. That's your to-do list. Upcoming assignments will be found here. This is also where you will find, when the time comes, your peer reviews, your peer review assignment. Now, this is really important. If you're working in the app on your phone or on a tablet, you won't find this. The app has very limited functionality. So I would encourage you not to do all of your work on the app. If you have a tablet or a phone, I encourage you to have access to a laptop, to a desktop. It's going to make your life much easier in this class. That brings us to the syllabus. So let's go ahead and take a look at the syllabus. You can access it over here on your homepage. So if you look right here, as you start scrolling through the syllabus, you're going to notice that I have some contact information. One of the things that I want to point out to you is that I've only given you one email address. This is not the email address I want you to use to contact me, though. Okay, this is only for sharing Google documents. Like if you try to contact me through this Gmail account, I will never get back to you. Your communication will be completely lost. I only use this email to access the Google Drive. So you'll share that with me. We'll get to that in a second. That's the only thing this is for. For all other contact, just communicate with me through Canvas. You will notice that over here on the menu to your left, there is an inbox. If you click on that, you'll notice that there is a kind of bare bones email client that Canvas has. You can contact me through that. Let's talk about document design. So really quick, in terms of assignment composition, remember what I said, everything has to be composed in a Google Doc. In order to share your Google documents with me, the first thing that I want you to do is to create a Google folder with your last name and English 2010. So that should just be the title of it. Your last name, English 2010. So you go into your drive, you go up here to new folder. You click on that. It's going to ask you to title the folder. You're just going to do it, your last name and English 2010, something like that. You create the folder and now it's going to show up right there in your drive. The next thing you want to do is share that folder with me. So you'll notice right over here, there's going to be a little kind of bust icon with a plus sign on it. That's your share thing. The other thing you can do is you can just right click on it and you get this drop down menu and you're going to see the same thing. Either one of those works. You click on share. This window will pop up and you want to share it with Mr. J.L. Robertson at gmail.com. Now you'll notice on the syllabus, that was the email address that I gave you. Mr. J.L. Robertson gmail.com. Now you'll know you have the right Mr. Robertson. You'll know you have my account when this little gold circle appears. This is my family crest. And that's how you know you're sharing it with the right person. You want to make sure I have editing access. That should be the default. And then you just send me the share and I will have access to the folder. From that point on, create every document in this class in that folder. Everything you do in this class, just create it in that folder. It will be automatically shared with me and you'll be good. This just makes it easier for you and I to work together. Makes it easier to access and collaborate if you do everything in Google Docs and put everything in that Google Docs folder. Remember, I'm saying to create a folder in your drive. So this is your Chrome, right? Your Chrome page. You go up to the little the square of 9 dots up there, your Google Apps, click on Drive rather than Docs. That's where you want to go. And that will bring you to your drive. That's where you create the new folder. All right, let's jump back to the syllabus. This first part of the syllabus, I encourage you to read it. This stuff is boilerplate stuff for the most part. The one thing that I want to point out here is that the purpose of this class is to learn the theories of research and writing and to give you the opportunity to put those theories, that knowledge, into practice. So there are basically two components to this course. There's the theory component, and then there's the practice component, the actual doing what the theory talks about. The textbook reading is theory. That's their purpose. And it's bare bones theory. We're not going to get deep into writing theory and rhetorical theory. This is the basics. This is stuff that if you have this information operating in the back of your head, your writing is going to improve. You're going to know when you're running into problems, why you might be running into problems. So you want access to that theory so that you can put it into practice. The primary text in this course is the 4th edition of Everyone's an Author. This book is a textbook. Don't read it like a novel. The idea is to glean from it useful theoretical approaches. Don't overthink the textbook. There are two ways to use the textbook as the physical book that I'm showing you right here. The other way is the digital text, which is integrated into the course. If you use the digital text, you still have to purchase the digital text. It doesn't come with the class. You actually have to buy it separately. One thing that many of you are going to notice about this text as you start reading it is that the authors have an ideological position that they do not try to hide at all. Some of you will agree with this ideological position. Some of you will not. That is totally fine. I do not want you to think that coming into this class, you have to think a certain way. As you move in to reading scholarly essays, and it begins with reading your textbook, that the writers you are engaging with, at best, they have biases. At worst, they have a political agenda. You need to be aware of this and you need to be on the lookout for it. Now, for some of you, this is going to be a political, these biases are going to be biases that you agree with. These political agendas are going to be political agendas that you agree with. That is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with agreeing with the biases you find in essays. But you got to be aware of them. Because if you ignore them, you're more likely to be swept along rather than engage a work critically. And that is ultimately, that's the goal here. I want you to be able to engage critically with what you read. Regardless of your biases, regardless of the biases of the person you're reading, I want you to be able to engage critically with it. All right, so now we come to the attendance policy. For my online students, you don't need to worry about this at all. There is no attendance component. For my face-to-face students, so I do take attendance in my face-to-face courses. If you miss 3 weeks of class, I will just give you a 0 for the course. If you turn anything in, because you'll still have access to Canvas, I will just automatically give it a 0. I will not read it. I will not look at it. For a face-to-face course to work, you have to be coming to class. In order to get everything out of this class that you need to get out of this class, and in order to put everything into this class that you need to put into this class, in order to get a good grade in this class, you have to attend. And if you are not doing that, you will fail the course. So that's attendance. Submissions. So let's talk about how you submit your assignments. In this class, each assignment is going to have a due date and a deadline. The due date is usually sometime during the week. So if I look at the calendar, let's jump over to the calendar really quick. So here's the calendar. What you're seeing on the calendar are due dates. That's always what's going to appear on the calendar. The deadline is when that assignment is no longer available. And for this class, that's almost always going to be the Sunday after the week that the module covers. So this first week of class, you'll notice you have 2 assignments coming up. These assignments are due on the 10th and the 11th. Your deadline for those assignments, the last day that you have access to those assignments and that you could turn them in late, is Sunday the 14th, right before midnight, 11:59 Sunday. And that's true for most assignments. All of the assignments in a given module will usually have a due date within the week, but a deadline the Sunday at the end of the week. Due dates are to help keep you organized. If you turn something in after a due date, it will begin to lose points, 5% per day. At the end of the week that module covers, the assignments in that module will close. If you have not turned something in by the deadline, by the closeout date, I will not reopen it. You will not have an opportunity to turn it in. You will just get a 0 on the assignment. Now let's talk about assignment composition. All of your assignments in this class must be composed in Google Docs. I don't want you using LibreOffice or Word or any of that kind of stuff. The reason I have you compose in Google Docs, and I do mean compose, I do not want you composing in Word or in LibreOffice or in a note somewhere and then copy and pasting it into Google Docs. There are a couple of reasons for this. So let's go over here and pull up a Google document so you can see what's going on, right? So let's look at this is just my document for the syllabus, right? Over here you have this history, this version history, and I can go through and I can look at all of the different versions of this document, and I can see when it was created, when it was edited, what edits were done, and you'll notice that something like this shows me that it's been copied and pasted from another document. If I see something like this in your version history, I am going to assume plagiarism. We'll get to plagiarism in a second. That is why I want you to compose in Google Docs. See, here's the thing. We live in the age of AI. We'll talk about AI here in a moment as well, because AI is not, it's not the devil, but it's not the great help that many people think it's going to be. It's a tool. It's a tool to be used. You want to use this tool wisely. You don't want to let the tool use you. If you are accused of plagiarism on an essay, and I can go in, or any other teacher can go in and see on your document your edits, how you started writing it, how you started changing things, more than anything else, that is your greatest defense against charges of plagiarism. So that is a big part for you. That's a big part of the reason why I want you composing in Google Docs, not composing elsewhere and copying it over, because it shows me to some degree that this is actually your work. Now, there are 2 kinds of plagiarism. There's accidental plagiarism and there's purposeful plagiarism. Accidental plagiarism happens in one of 2 ways. One, it happens when you quote someone and you forget to put it in quotation marks, or you forget to attribute the source. That's one form of accidental plagiarism. The second form of accidental plagiarism is when you are paraphrasing someone or summarizing someone and your language mimics their language too closely, or you actually directly use their phrasing rather than your own phrasing. So those are two forms of kind of accidental plagiarism. Be careful of them. But the more nefarious form of plagiarism is when you try to pass someone else's ideas off as your own. That's bad. In this class, there's no real reason to do that because my approach to this class is that this is practice. How does that apply to AI? What we're seeing now is not just students, but professionals prompting AI to actually compose the essay for themselves. That would be an act of plagiarism. It's lazy, it's inhuman. You're not improving as a human being doing that. You're not improving in your language doing that. That being said, AI can absolutely help you improve as a writer. There are a couple of ways that I can see you using AI. First, to brainstorm. Let's say you have a set of ideas and you don't know where to start writing. You can actually absolutely go into AI and help use AI to help you generate some ideas, as long as you let me know that you used AI to do it, and as long as you do not leave what AI produced as your work. Use it as a prompt. Use it to maybe write a good sentence, which I'm going to let you know right now, AI does not write good sentences. One of the chief things that we notice about AI is how bland it is. It's not the first time that you ever generate something in AI, it looks pretty good. The 100th time you see something generated in AI, you're like, this sucks. This is not very good at all. It's kind of like AI generated art. You've seen those the images generated in AI, right? If you look at some of the AI generated images, after a while, you start recognizing it. There's an inhumanness to it. It doesn't look like something a human being would produce. There's no individuality to it. There's no it just doesn't look human. And in writing, you start getting the same thing. After a while, when you've seen stuff generated by AI, you recognize that it's not real. There's not a person behind it, right? There's not a mind behind it. So I encourage you to use AI as a tool. If you use it to maybe tighten up a paragraph or to give you some ideas, let me know. So in a Google document, when you pull up a Google document, you can highlight stuff, you can make a comment, and you can just tell me something like this was generated initially by AI, or for this paragraph, I used AI to help get me started, or something like that. Only, spell this correctly. Something like that is totally fine. The other thing that you want to avoid when you're using AI, if you're using AI, you want to avoid using AI to generate sources. Let's say you wanted to put a paragraph or two in your essay and you use AI to generate it, and you're not sure how to integrate your research. So you just tell AI to put some research in there. The AI will make something up. If you tell AI to put a quote in, it won't be a real quote. So you want to avoid that. So if you're aware of its limitations, AI can be very useful. But if you're not, AI can be dangerous to your career. And I don't want to, be hyperbolic here, but it can stunt your growth as a human being. And we do not want to do that. Okay? Writing, language, You're a human being. Language is your birthright. So that's plagiarism. Now I'm coming off of my little soapbox there. Um, Back to the syllabus. I've already talked about my submission policy. Document design follows MLA formatting. So we're looking at Times New Roman. You want to use Times New Roman font, 12-point font. Everything has to be double spaced. If I see any problems with document design, for most assignments, I'll just make a note or a comment on the assignment and say this is not done in MLA formatting. For your major assignments, you will be docked on the major assignment if you do not follow MLA formatting. Okay, so my grading policy, kind of already gone over that. Um, Assignments will be docked 5% per day after the due date and will not be accepted after the deadline. However, I am obligated to make this note. I will honor any university authorized accommodations. Something else that's important is other extenuating circumstances. I am willing to work around extenuating circumstances if they need to be worked around. Anyway, feedback. Let's go into feedback. I do provide feedback, but not on all assignments. So the way that I look at feedback in the class, go back to something I said earlier. This is practice. Okay, this class is practice. So often I will look at multiple assignments and I am trying to gauge you as a writer. Like, like what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And I can't do that from one assignment. So my feedback is never going to be assignment specifics. I shouldn't say never. It's rarely going to be assignment specific. It will be writer specific. And in order to get that, I need to look at a variety of writing assignments in a variety of writing scenarios. And so that's what I do. So you won't be getting feedback on every single assignment. To give my feedback, I usually use written comments on the text, rubrics, or video comments. Notice the or. I don't usually do all three together. Sometimes I won't do any of them. Sometimes I'll just assign to smaller assignments. I'll just assign a grade, but that doesn't mean that I didn't read it. That means I'm looking, I'm watching, or that there's no real feedback I can give you on this thing at that moment, right? When I'm looking at your essays, when I'm looking at your writing, I am basically looking at four things, okay? And I've enumerated them here on the syllabus. I look at your character credibility as a writer. We call these ethical appeals. So I will look at your ethical appeals. I'll also look at what we call emotional appeals. How you use your words and your sentences to emotionally connect with the audience. And that leads me to the next one that I'm looking at, and this is logical appeals or logos. Your ability to reason effectively. So those are the three main areas that I'm looking at. Your ability to, your credibility as a writer, how you establish that, I should trust you as a writer, your ability to connect emotionally with a writer, and your ability to reason as a writer or as an arguer. The last one is formatting. As I already talked about, that's MLA stuff. Everything should be, I expect you to engage or to write in standard edited American English. That means no punctuation errors, no spelling errors, no grammatical errors, no syntactical errors, and organizing your text in MLA formatting. Last, I want to talk about class etiquette. Whether you're in an online course with me or a face-to-face course, you will be engaging with people in discussions who do not agree with you. So in terms of your etiquette, you have to be able to listen to others. You have to be able to disagree without devolving into insult. And you have to allow people to have their own opinions that you don't agree with. This is a very precarious time in our democracy where our citizenry is increasingly polarized. We refuse to listen to and hear people who disagree with us. The university especially, should be a place where that doesn't happen, because the goal of the university needs to be truth. And sometimes we don't have enough facts to establish the truth one way or another. So we have to speculate. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you can recognize when someone is speculating versus when they have discovered some set of facts, it'll go a long way to helping you become a more rational and more effective thinker and writer. The other things are for me and for the other students. So, get to class on time. Don't have private conversations at the back of the classroom. Come to class prepared. Be polite. You can be polite to someone you don't respect. You don't have to disrespect them. All right. The assignment descriptions. You have 4 major papers, 4 major writing projects. There are a couple of other things that you need to be aware of. In all of our reading, we are going to have reading responses. One of the things I want to point out to you about the reading responses, let's go to next week. So next week, you have 2 reading responses, 2 chapters that you have to read. But you'll notice that I've combined both of them into a single reading response. So I'm only expecting 1 reading response for all of your chapters in a given week, with rare exceptions. Sometimes I'll keep your reading responses separate, either because they come from different texts or because the topics are so different. I want you to handle the 2 topics separately. Let me show you an example of the reading response so you can take a look at this. There are a variety of ways that you can do a reading response, but the key thing to take out of this is that I want you in your reading responses to note the major theoretical concepts that you learn in these chapters, any difficulties that you might have run into, your sense of how these concepts might help you as a writer. And I will encourage you to look at anything that you find questionable, motivated by bias on the part of the writer. Again, the reason I'm having you do this has nothing to do with whether or not you agree or disagree with these biases, but I want you to note it so that you can start being on the lookout for it. When you see something that seems, the language seems loaded or jargony in some way, in a way that seems ideological, note that so that you can be aware of it, so that you can start attuning yourself to it. So that's your reading responses. All of your reading responses are 10% of your grade. Then you have class participation, which is also 10% of your grade. For those of you who are in my online course, class participation is going to count writing exercises in your discussion. For those of you who are in my face-to-face courses, class participation may occasionally involve a discussion post online, because sometimes I will cancel class and I'll have you guys do stuff outside of class. But it will also count your actual participation in the classroom and your attendance, as well as your writing exercises. A couple of things that I want to bring your attention to are the accessibility services. So if you do have a learning disability or any other kind of a disability, maybe you're hard of hearing, or maybe you have vision impairment, go to accessibility services. I also want you to be aware that we accommodate sincerely held religious beliefs. The way that this class is designed, because I've already given you 2 free absences if you're in a 2-day-a-week course, or 3 free absences if you're in a 3-day-a-week course, this should not be a problem. You just use your freebie absences for anything that you need to take off for religious purposes. However, if there is an accommodation that you need for religious services, please let me know in advance and we can accommodate you. And that's it. That's the syllabus. That's your course overview. The entire semester, everything is basically working up to one big essay that is due at the end of the semester, and that is your final research paper. You will notice that that is 30% of your grade. It's kind of a big deal. Don't want to miss that one. But you're not going to be able to write that effectively if you don't do all the stuff that comes before it. If you start running into problems with attendance, with keeping up with the schedule, whatever, let me know in advance. Don't tell me 3 weeks after you're having a problem that you're having a problem, because 3 weeks after you start having a problem, there's nothing I can do for you. Tell me immediately. That's it for me right now. So I look forward to meeting each of you face to face at some point. Um, until then, good luck. Have a great semester, and we will talk soon.